Hello YouTube, my name is Agent Omega and I do things. Today, behind me you might recognize the two spoon meters I made in a previous Omega Does Redstone video, but then I saw that Mumbo Jumbo's recent I Build Your Silly Redstone video number 14 featured a very similar contraption. And I was taking a look at it, wondering exactly how it was different from mine when I realized that it doesn't use a ludicrous amount of hoppers, and as such, I wanted to improve my builds. So with that, I give you 3 different versions of a very similar contraption, just to illustrate the changes, as well as how much better they are than the first one, I suppose. So first we're going to pop on over here. They still have very similar behavior. You go over to the left side to hit a button this time, and drain out the system, and you go over to the right side to hit a button to refill the system. Now, the big difference in the back is that we basically have this sort of etho-like hopper device, and we've got a couple of monostable pulse here, so we've basically got a couple of T flip-flops. And the key difference between my build and Mumbo's build is that with this one you can sustain a charge. I don't think his could do that. I think he basically just toggled the lever one way and it drained out, and toggled the lever the other way and it refilled. Which, that system I think would look a bit more like an etho hopper clock, except for the fact that, you know, the input would be a lever instead of the items flipping back and forth. So basically, in this first version, you know, we've got a monostable pulse on the red side. It feeds in over here. This is sort of a T flip-flop in the default position. Both of the redstone blocks are on top of the hoppers, meaning that the items can't move, meaning the bar is mostly filled and partially empty. And of course, when we hit the green one, signal flows through and it removes the one from the green side, and the signal is based upon the one coming out of the red. And of course, because when a container is fully filled with the maximum number of stacks of a particular item it can hold, it will emit a signal of 15. So basically you could say that this version of the spoon meter, or I guess power level meter, as Mumbo so adequately showed, is more quote-unquote solid state. Basically we just have the single input to regulate the entire signal. What this means is it will tend to be a little bit faster. Of course, you can vary the speed by changing which item you have in here. I went with a 16 stackable item because it's like kind of slow. It's about as fast as the original one with all of its swords, but you can make it slower by using 64 stack items, of course. So, next we will move on to these two. The special feature here is that, of course, you can curve it around, and this also illustrates that you can have multiple modules sort of hooked up. So first I'm going to start draining things out of the system just to illustrate that we don't start from the left and then go to the right. So we're going to drain all the way around and eventually end up back at the button. The way this works is that we still have the monostable circuit here, and we've got a line running all the way around to the edge, but if you'll notice here, we have a line coming back from the previous module, and that, using the whole repeater lock type design, basically functions as sort of an NAND gate, yes, because we want things to start draining out of a particular part of the module when this line is off and this line is off. And so it was just a lot simpler than trying to do a torch-based NAND. Now, of course, as you can see, the first thing emptied out, the second one is emptying out, and we'll just wait around here for it to loop around to the third module, or the first module, depending upon how you look at it. Now, you may also have noticed that they immediately sort of tick out. Reason for that is because of how the redstone signals work. When a majority of the items are in a hopper, that last item that makes it strength 15 is not the very last item in the hopper. It's like, you know, some particular fraction of a stack. And therefore, once that happens, it will just sort of immediately start draining the next one out a little bit early. So that's why you saw this one went, and then this one almost immediately went. This also sort of happens in reverse, so I will just demonstrate that by hitting this button, and we'll see that it will reach this block, and then it will immediately tick over to this block, like that. So we'll just let this refill for a bit, and it's basically the same thing going backward. We can still see that we have the monostable pulse from green into a T flip-flop, and then green was a little bit more difficult because, well, it was more difficult and more easy at the same time. It's easier because basically we can wait until we've got a signal strength 15, and then we can just sort of toggle this off, and then that means that this can start refilling. It's harder because we basically need to have the NAND, I guess. Yeah, I think it's a NAND. Yeah, I think it's an AND. So we have the NAND gate here, more or less, and then we have to loop the green line around. And you can see we've got that here as well. The red line, more or less, it's going to have the same amount of wool, or the same line length for both the input and the back propagation, as I like to call it. So this is going to be a lot more wool intensive, but it's going to be less awful for hoppers, and I think it's more extensible in general than the other ones. Well, not really. The other ones can be sort of infinitely expanded. This one will vary, so I will put a link in the description to download this world again. Problem is, if you do a block-for-block copy, you have to stick to division of 15. Otherwise, you're going to have to screw around with some signal lengths and stuff like that. So just be warned, if you're not a Redstone expert, you do want to try to keep to a module length of 15. If you are a Redstone expert, feel free to play around with that, and I'll go into stuff in more detail. Now, the last version is a little bit different because we've got a continuous line of 30 blocks, and this is theoretically extendable. Again, in increments of 15 would be preferable, but the tricky bit is that, unlike this one where we have this sort of corner here, we can exploit the ends of the blue line. This one doesn't. So you can see here, this would be the 16th block that this comparator? Yeah, the comparator is going into. And the reason for that is, you know, if we've got this one outputting at a full signal strength of 15, this line will go up to here anyway. So with this comparator active, it will only basically function off to the left from where we're currently looking, right from the face of the device. So when this is draining out, this signal technically gets weaker on both sides of the comparator, but again, because we have this one active, the 15th light will remain active even when this one empties out. Now this one does have a little bit of a different setup. Again, because we don't have access to the blue line, you can see that the red line is taking an output from red, such that when this is empty, it unlocks the repeater over here and allows this one to drain out. Yeah, you can see this line a bit better from over here. And similarly with the green line, we've got an output from here, and it's just running in to the lock for the green over here. So basically that just ensures that this one will fill up first, then this one, and this one will drain first, and then this one. Very similar. One other thing to note is that in both designs 2 and 3, when we are coming out of the green line, we've got this negation. When we're coming out from the red line over here, it's just straightforward, and you need to make sure that the signal strength coming out of here is 0. So it's basically like one is a self-negation, and the other one you have to negate. I don't know if that makes too much sense, but it does in my head. So that is those 3 builds. If you want to see one where I've wrapped it around the other way, then feel free to request that in the comment section. The other thing to keep in mind is that with both of these builds, you do need to sort of run to either end to hit whichever button you want to hit, refill or drain. You could play around with the button locations, just to make sure that when you're running in the inputs, you keep sort of this similar base design on the red and green sections. But with that, I think that is all I really wanted to cover today, so thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like. If you want to see more Minecraft or Space Engineers or Monster Hunter, please click that subscribe button and click the notifications. I am going to be starting up a couple of Feed the Beast series shortly, so please look forward to that. And in the meantime, I will catch you on the flip side. Thanks for watching, everyone.